Welcome to Flashback Tracks. Travel back in time each Friday to an era of big hair, leg warmers, and Walkmans.
Far out.
Veg out with some clips from Downtime Broadcasting's promotional audio cassette magazine from the 80s and 90s, right here on the World Wide Web.
Just what do you call this business? The other day, a friend, not in our industry, told me that someone had recently asked him what business I was in. My friend said he had trouble explaining that. So just for fun, I let him try again. Well, he said, scratching his head and screwing up his face, widgets with advertising on them, promotional gimmicks, that kind of stuff. I was listening for the word specialty, but he never mentioned it. Not bad, John, I praised him. Most people can't even get out of the blocks on the subject. I asked him what he thought of the term specialty advertising or advertising specialties. He said he had heard it, but it didn't occur to him to use it. The problem has a little to do with the word specialty itself, and a lot to do with the fact that the two words together account for 7 syllables. 7? That's more syllables than you hear in a typical buyer sentence. You know, like, yeah, I've seen that. Or, what else have you got? Or maybe, where is my stuff? Well, what's wrong with just telling people you're in widgets? Everybody else can keep their business description to 1 or 2 syllables. You know, Billy pushes cars, Peggy Sue sells stocks, Jack slings hash. Heck, even Guido gets by with only 3 syllables. Protection. Well, let me explain the basic problem another way. Your 9-year-old son comes home from school and says he has to give a short speech on what you do for a living. Of course, without props, he has no idea where to begin. But you see a golden opportunity here. Chance for a little one-on-one bonding with your son, and some free publicity at the old school. After you have waxed eloquently on everything from awards to zippered folders, you condense it for him. Son, just tell him specialty advertising is the most common medium of advertising in America. Everybody uses it. They just don't know what to call it, but it's a great business. Next day, he comes home from school and tells you all the kids wanted to know how his dad's business could be so great if it's just medium. Well, so much for your role as communicator. But people say this is an easy business to get into. Anyone who can read can open up shop. And that's just about right. Take my own case. Until I reached my 17th birthday, all I ever read was Marvel Comics. And when I finished college, I naturally went into specialty advertising. I had heard I had the primary prerequisite. And here I was, a guy who had always placed reading right up there with eating spinach, and suddenly I was wading through 50 catalogs a week. And whenever I failed to do that properly, I got a phone call from a supplier calling my attention to one little sentence on the back page that would end up costing me $500. But you can't say it isn't a fun business. When you start on your own, you naturally want to keep your overhead down. So you set up shop in your own home. Pretty soon you're working 12 to 14-hour days. You see, you don't know where your office ends and your home begins. Before long, your spouse can't stand it, and he or she insists you see a shrink about your work compulsion. Now the shrink costs you more each month than office rent would have. But that's okay too. A lot of family pride here. Look at your son. He grew up, joined you in the business. Of course, the first thing he did was sign up for an evening course in remedial reading. And then just last week, his 11-year-old daughter came home from school needing material for writing a short paper about her dad's occupation. Yeah, but you knew how to deal with that one. Tell them I read for a living, honey. You know, I tell people I'm in the specialty advertising business, and they don't have a clue. This has to be the world's only occupation where the two definitive words can be either nouns or adjectives, and either word can precede the other. Small wonder it's the most common but least understood medium of advertising in America. But I'm not a lonely voice on the subject. There are about us winds of change. I have even heard that our National Association is considering changing its name from specialty advertising to promotional product marketing. If that happens, I recommend you buy stock in your local printing business. Just think of how many firms will want to change their names and letterheads. The really bad news, however, is that your old occupation name will no longer have 7 syllables, but 9. What's wrong with widgets? This is Terry Dodd, and that's my report.
Travel back in time with us next Friday as we share more clips from the 80s and 90s on another rad episode of Flashback Tracks, exclusively on Promo Corner. Time to bounce.